And right now, I want to welcome our friend from the Independent Women's Forum. Julie Gunlock is with us on the show. Julie, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm sorry I'm not in the studio today. My internet is kind of on the fritz, and right now I have 6 boys in my house playing. So, yeah. Shockingly, I couldn't find a babysitter to come over and watch them.
Hey, could you come watch 6 kids for me?
I have locked my door and threatened, and some of them aren't my children, and I've threatened them with,
I was going to
violence.
say, I know how many kids you have, and it wasn't 6, so I was hoping that they weren't all your kids.
Yeah.
It sounds so quiet in the background, though, I have to say.
It does. They're all cowering in a corner crying right now, so... Yeah.
Well, listen, make sure that they don't do the hot water challenge while you're not watching.
Oh, my gosh, what is wrong with young people today? Listen to me. I sound 100 years old. I really do, but I don't understand. They're snorting condoms. They're eating Tide Pods. Of course, we can't forget Chuck Schumer also ate a Tide Pod. So it's not just young people. And now this hot water challenge, it's just a shock to me.
Yeah, this is really amazing. We were talking about this earlier because look, I'm of the attitude that we can't ban our way to safety as a society. And this is a perfect example of not being able to ban your way to safety. Because what do you ban here? Do you ban boiling water? Do you ban YouTube? Do you ban pots? Right? I mean, this is, and this is something, Julie, that honestly, like as a parent, I never thought that I have to have that conversation with my kids of, hey, don't pour boiling water on your friends while they're sleeping, or don't try to drink boiling water through a straw. But this is what's actually happening, and kids are dying, kids are being hurt. And I had this thought to myself, I wonder, Julie, how many of these kids, and the age range, I've seen as young as like 6 or 7, as old as 15, how many of these kids ever make soup for themselves?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because like with my kids, my youngest kid, he makes ramen, right? So he knows what boiling water is like. He's gotten little droplets on his skin. He knows that it hurts. I mean, like, no, seriously, like he's had that real world experience of why would you? I mean, if I told my son about the hot water challenge, his response would be, why would they do something so stupid?
Well,
and the answer is they don't know that it's so stupid.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think people don't. To be honest, I really can't logic this out. I don't understand it. I did some stupid stuff when I was a teenager. I drove my dad's car too fast, or I did risky things. But I always had a sense of sort of what my abilities were. I never did things like, let's set myself on fire and see what happens. I mean, I sort of understood that things could do irreversible damage. And that's what's so shocking to me is these kids are doing things that can actually deeply, deeply harm them or scar them. And they do it anyway. And it's this desperate need for, I think, excitement. And I think part of the reason, and it all goes back to, I really think a lot of it goes back to, parenting and how much freedom you've given kids, how much ability you've had to let them explore their world. And so many kids, there's a new report that says that kids only get 7 minutes of time outside. The average kid spends 7 minutes outside a day. I know your kids, I know they spend more time just in general, but simply because of the chores they have to do. My kids, they are just not allowed to watch television or have, and I don't want to be the judgy mom, because I think there's also there can be a little bit of class snobbery here of, turn the television off because I think some people, they may not have childcare, they may not have, they might need to rely on these things, but I do think that you need to just tell your kids, go outside. It's not always fun. They don't always want to do it. But, you can also say you can go explore your neighborhood, go walk around. The other thing is give kids a task. Sometimes I tell my children, now we have one very, very busy street that my kids, it's people get hit on this street. I would never let them cross it by themselves. But they can go a back way and get to a CVS drugstore, and they can buy a couple things. They have milk there, they have juice there. I sometimes send them up there with a list and some cash, and they're required to go get it and bring it home. And it's a great activity for them to do. And I always tell them they can get one little piece of candy or something, right? Mm-hmm. But it's amazing to me how people don't give their kids errands, don't give their kids responsibilities, don't let their kids explore more. And again, I think that's why you have, it's not entirely the reason, but I think you have these ridiculous things happening because people are they're looking for fun. They're looking for something exciting to do. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's one theory.
Okay, I think that, I think that there's probably something to that. I think there's also the desire for fame or
Well,
notoriety,
yeah,
right?
right.
Get noticed,
Yeah.
and so that may override. But again, honestly, Julie, like at some point, I'm with you. How do you not know that boiling water hurts? Right. I mean, that at some point, the notoriety, the time spent online as opposed to outside. This is a really basic concept. I mean, this
Yeah.
really is. And, again, like the Time magazine of the story of this 15-year-old in Indiana who was at a sleepover. He was asleep, and his friend poured boiling water on him. He spent a
Oh.
week in the hospital. There was a little girl in Brooklyn who died after drinking boiling water through a straw. I mean, this is
What in the world?
right. This is really basic stuff here. But again,
Yeah.
if you're expecting that the legislature of your given state or that Congress can step
Oh,
in
of course.
and pass some sort of law that's going to stop this, you're fooling yourself.
No, there's a lot of things. Look, there's a lot of things that they can't do, and also they can't stop YouTube stars from being born. Look, when my 7-year-old recently said that, I'm sorry, 8-year-old, he just turned 8.
Is
Said
he
that,
woke? Did he become
I
a woke
can't.
8-year-old when he celebrated his birthday?
Oh yes, absolutely. But he told me he wanted to be a YouTube star, and I could feel my tears coming to my eyes. I was so ashamed. I was horrified, and then I sat him down. It was as if he'd said like a bad word. I like had this very serious conversation with him about how like that's never going to happen if. If no, there's no way. But my kids actually watch some YouTube now. I mean, I'm pretty much always there with them when they're watching TV because our TV is sort of connected to the kitchen. And so like I see what they're watching, and they always watch very wholesome things. It's usually some guy playing Minecraft. It's the most bizarre thing. I don't understand. I'm too old. I don't understand this. But I think you're right. I think the notoriety is probably a much better point. I think people really are trying to get sort of the idea of like if you have from a writer's standpoint, if you have an article go viral, right? It's like jackpot, right? And they are looking for that kind of viral video. You see it on Twitter all the time. These people with 200 followers, and then suddenly they say something witty and they get 18,000 retweets. And then they're all excited about that. It's their moment to shine. And you'll see on their Twitter account, they'll say things like, hey, follow me here or check out my Instagram. And so I think among younger people there is that hunger for that sort of shallow fame, that sort of internet fame, and that brings on for a certain group of kids that can bring on some very dangerous activities.
It absolutely can. Again, talking with Julie Gundlach of the Independent Women's Forum, and so again, you talk about your parental involvement, and I think a lot of that really, I think that is the answer. I think that it is not just allowing your kids to use social media or YouTube as a babysitter.
Well, I also read about I read all the time about these kids who get bullied online.
Uh-huh.
They have Facebook accounts and they're on Twitter also. I'm like, why in the world does a 12-year-old or even if I guess Facebook is 13, why would they have a Facebook account? Like I am amazed that and look, my kids go to an elementary school where mercifully I don't see a lot of cell phone use. Kids don't have cell phones in the classroom. But I do see kids with cell phones. I see very young kids with electronics, and it's astonishing to me because I think it opens up a world. It accelerates their childhood. It just changes them. It takes away a little bit of their innocence. So I hate being the judgy mom, but really hold off on this stuff for your kids. There's no reason. They are not deprived if you hold off on some of this stuff and let them do some real things. Look, kids want to feel like they've pleased you. They really do. And when I send my 3 kids with a wad of cash, because they're not getting the credit card, and a list, and they come back and they've accomplished it, they feel so good. And they always take detours and they kind of stop at friends' houses, and it's a great thing for them to do. So try to give your kids, or like you living on a farm, give your kid a lot of chores.
Yep.
This is really important, and kids really feel good when they accomplish that.
They do, and it's interesting. I was having this conversation with my wife not long ago because we were talking about the differences in our older kids and our younger kids, because even our older kids say like, their younger brothers and sisters, they're looking at them and they're like, you're so easy on them, and we try not to be, but
Right.
When my oldest daughter, who's now in her early 30s, was before they moved to Oklahoma, before I met my wife, and they were living in Camden, New Jersey. she was 8, 9 years old, and she was the same thing. She'd go down to the corner store, right? My wife would give her a couple of dollars, and here, you go down and go to the corner store. This was in Camden. This was the murder capital of the United States at the time. And here's a 9-year-old girl going to the corner store, right? And now, now it's, go feed the goats and go collect the eggs and go, mow the yard and go do this other stuff. And it's not, they still have their chores, but my older kids think that my younger kids have it easy.
Well, I should really tell your oldest daughter about your killer chickens. At least my Henry could tell your oldest daughter about your killer chickens. So, I don't know, Camden, New York, or Cam's Chickens. And just for listeners, one of Cam's chickens nearly ate my son, and we still are in therapy about that.
That was Ned. And the good news is for your son, Ned's dead, baby.
Ned's dead.
Ned's dead.
We celebrate that every year on the anniversary of Ned's being put in a pot.
Ned, I was going to say, Ned's been around. I don't think we have any of Ned's soup left over, but if we did, I would give that to your son so that he could eat Ned, gain his power, and then, there's something spiritual that would happen there. Maybe that sounds like actually something that Gwyneth Paltrow would get involved in, right?
Well, it sounds like a great short story, actually. But listen, I know that, and which you should write. But I will tell you, I know my time is running short here. But I will tell you too. The other thing, it's not just running chores. Let your kids cook for themselves. Let them do their own laundry. I know you do. Oh my gosh, Miss E I think your kids were pretty young when they were doing their own laundry. I was totally impressed with that. There are things around the house. Have them put away their laundry. I mean, kids just don't get chores. It's amazing. I've done a little bit of polling among my friends. Their kids don't have chores. What is that? Have them learn to vacuum, learn to operate the vacuum. These kids are all going to go off to college. I talk about this, How to Raise an Adult, that great book by Julie Lythcott-Hames, and she talks about how kids don't know how to do anything because their parents don't give them chores. If you give your child chores, they may complain about it, but it's going to make their adulthood much easier to transition to.
I think that's right. And listen, I don't want people to get the idea that, our house is perfect and we have our perfect little Stepford kids. I walked into my daughter's room the other day and I just shrieked, just like, ah, and I said, listen, you've got to start cleaning this up, and I will. I'm like, no. So yes, there are still the things that are like pulling teeth, but you're right. We don't. I think generally, and I'm speaking in gross generalizations here, but you're right. I think many parents don't put. They worry about putting expectations on their kids, right? It's going to hurt little Johnny if I actually expect him to do these things.
But Kim, I also can't tell you how many conversations I have with moms who really actually grill me. They say, "How do you say no to them to electronics?" And I'm like, "What's confusing? The N or the O? Just say it. Just say no." There is nothing confusing about that. You're the parent. It amazes me. I think there is true weakness in parenting today. And I know I sound like such a know-it-all parent. I have troubles too. Look, I scream my head off too much, and my kids' rooms are messy, and they're not perfect. But I think people really do need to start acting like a family, and start sharing the chores. Mom and dad don't have to do everything, and it's really good for your kids to share that kind of home responsibility. They're part of the family. They need to do the work too. Amen.
And by the way, if your kids, do their chores and they still want more to do, send them over to Julie's house. She's got some work for them.
I've always got stuff for them to do.
You got 6 kids right now. Have them go mow the yard.
Kids. I'm going to be doing a little cleaning tomorrow because several of them are spending the night tonight. What is wrong with me? I don't know.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Well, good luck to you, Julie. Good luck.
Good luck to me. It was nice being. I'll probably never be on the show again. So
no. You might need a mental vacation for a couple of weeks after a 6-boy sleepover. But
I might.
All right, Julie. Listen, I appreciate you coming on the program. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Julie Gunlock of the Independent Women's Forum.